China is often imagined at the scale of millions: glass towers, crowded stations, high-speed trains, and cities that seem to rebuild themselves overnight. But beyond China's megacities, another rhythm continues in ancient towns and mountain villages, where people still cook, work, raise families, and care for homes shaped over centuries. This is an unseen side of China, not because it has been untouched by the modern world, but because everyday life here is easily hidden behind the beauty of the buildings. A circular earthen house may look like a monument from the air. A terraced mountain may look like a work of art. A walled city may appear to belong entirely to history. Yet each of these places is also a living environment, with doors that open in the morning, roofs that need repair, water that must keep moving, and streets that must serve residents as well as visitors. So, how do people live inside places that were designed for another century, and what allows an ancient settlement to remain a home rather than become only a memory? Our journey begins in the green hills of Fujian, then follows rivers and waterways through Hunan, and Anhui climbs the rice terraces of Yunnan, enters the walled streets of Shanxi, and ends among the wooden villages and layered voices of Guizhou. A gate opens, footsteps cross a shared courtyard, steam rises from a kitchen. Somewhere above, a wooden door moves on its hinges. Before the architecture becomes a landmark, it becomes part of someone's morning. In the mountains of southwestern Fujian, enormous earthen buildings stand among fields of rice, tea, and tobacco. Some are round, others square, but nearly all turn their attention inward. Their outer walls are high and restrained. Their interior galleries face an open courtyard where movement, sound work, and family life meet. These are the Fujian Tulou. The World Heritage Property comprises 46 buildings constructed between the 15th and 20th centuries across a wide rural area. From above, the largest look almost geometric rings of earth and tile placed carefully against the hills. At ground level, their purpose becomes more human. They were built to shelter whole clans, combining residence protection, storage, circulation, and community inside a single structure. The contrast is immediate. Outside, the walls reveal little. There is usually one main entrance, and the lowest level has few openings. Inside, wooden balconies rise floor after floor around the courtyard. Light reaches the center. Voices travel across it. A person stepping out of a room can see activity on the opposite side of the building. Traditionally, families occupied vertical sections of the Tulou, with rooms distributed across several levels rather than separated into modern apartments. The arrangement connected private family space to shared passages and a common center. Hundreds of people could once live within a single building, and the largest were designed to hold as many as 800. But scale alone does not explain the experience of living here. It is the repetition of small journeys that defines the house: down a stairway, along a gallery, across the courtyard, through the gate, and out toward the surrounding fields. Every errand passes through spaces used by other people. In the early light, the building wakes in layers. The tiled roof catches the first sun, while the lower courtyard remains cool. Someone sweeps near a doorway. Cooking begins behind timber walls. Water is carried or poured. Baskets, stools, and tools appear where the courtyard was empty moments before. One task does not represent every household, but together these movements show how a building of remarkable size returns to an ordinary scale. The courtyard is not simply an attractive center. It allows air and daylight into a deep, inward-facing structure. It provides room for work gatherings and passage. It also makes life visible. Sound rises from below and crosses from one gallery to another. Privacy exists, but so does constant awareness of neighbors and relatives. It can be tempting to romanticize this closeness. Communal living is not automatically easy. Shared space requires patience. Older buildings require maintenance. Timber tile and rammed earth respond to moisture, weather, and use. A home built for a large extended clan must also adapt as families become smaller and expectations of comfort change. That adaptation is part of the story. A Tulou is not preserved by remaining exactly as it was on the day it was completed. It survives because people continue to negotiate how old rooms, shared corridors, and modern needs can exist together. Electrical wires, newer appliances, motorbikes outside the gate, and visitors in the courtyard may all belong to the same present-day scene. For a visitor, the circular form is extraordinary. For someone who lives here, it is the root home. The design also reveals how communities once responded to uncertainty. Thick earthen walls, a controlled entrance, and limited openings at the lower level gave protection. But the defensive exterior only worked because the inside supported cooperation. The building faced danger by closing outward, while sustaining life by opening inward. That idea still feels present when the courtyard fills with activity. The strength of the Tulou is not only in its earth, it is in the relationship between structure and routine, between family space and common space, and between a house that appears almost timeless and the people who keep changing within it. When the gate is crossed again, the building recedes quickly into the landscape. Fields, narrow roads, wooded slopes, and scattered settlements replace the enclosed courtyard. China changes scale once more. The next communities are not organized around a central ring, but along water. In southwestern Hunan, near the mountains of Guizhou, Fenghuang rises beside the Tuojiang River. Timber houses stand along the banks. Rooflines follow the uneven ground. Bridges, stone lanes, steps, and narrow passages connect a town fitted tightly between water and hills. Fenghuang is often photographed after dark, when reflections tremble beneath rows of lights. But the town tells a different story in the morning. Before the river becomes a backdrop, it is an edge that residents cross, work beside, and look out over as the day begins. Shutters open along the lanes. Goods are moved toward shop fronts. Steam gathers above small kitchens. Deliveries pass through spaces that were never designed for large vehicles. People on foot share the old streets with handcarts, bicycles, and the occasional scooter. On the water, a boat breaks the reflection and changes the sound of the river for a few moments. Rather than following a single person, watch the town become active through many hands. A door is unfastened. A table is set outside. Produce is arranged. A customer pauses. A boat moves beneath a bridge. By the time the lanes are busy, the transition from sleeping town to working town is complete. The old settlement contains historic streets, lanes, residences, walls, gates, and riverside timber structures. Its layout uses the slope rather than flattening it. Paths turn, rise, narrow, and open again. The river gives the town a clear direction, but daily movement happens across many levels along the bank, over bridges, through alleys, and up stairways toward houses built against the hill. Living in a place like Fenghuang means learning its small distances. A location may be close on a map, but separated by steps, water crowds, or a narrow passage. Moving supplies through the old center takes more effort than moving them along a modern street. Buildings beside the river gain beauty and access, but they also demand care from people who live and work in them. Tourism is now part of this rhythm. Guest houses, restaurants, photographs, performances, and evening lights create income and bring attention to the old town. They also change what the streets are for. A doorway may belong to a family, a business, or both. A lane can be a route to someone's home, and at the same time a place where visitors stop to frame a picture. Water organizes other old settlements in quieter ways. Farther east in the southern part of Anhui province, the villages of Xidi and Hongcun preserve lanes, houses, and comprehensive water systems designed as parts of one settlement. In Hongcun, water enters the village, passes through a network of channels, and gathers in ponds. Houses do not merely stand near the system, they are integrated with it. Here, water can appear almost still, holding the white walls and dark roofs in reflection. Yet its deeper value is movement. It links the mountain setting to the village and brings infrastructure close to domestic space. The narrow channels guide the eye, but they also reveal a way of planning in which water streets, courtyards, and homes were considered together. Walking beside these channels changes how the village is understood. What first appears to be a collection of beautiful old houses becomes a connected system. The width of an alley, the direction of a stream, the position of a wall, and the opening of a courtyard all influence how people move through the day. Fenghuang and the villages of southern Anhui are not identical, and they should not be collapsed into one idea of ancient China. One is a river town shaped by a dramatic valley and a busy visitor economy. The others are rural settlements with their own history, architecture, and water networks. What they share is a lesson about settlement. Water becomes meaningful when it enters routine. It may carry a boat past a riverside house. It may lead someone across a bridge before work. It may run beside a wall that has stood for generations. In each case, beauty is only one result. The more important achievement is that the settlement turns geography into a daily path. In southern Yunnan, that relationship between landscape and routine expands across entire mountains. The Honghe Hani Rice Terraces descend the slopes of the Ailao Mountains toward the Hong River. Seen from a distance, they look almost impossible. Thousands of curved lines following the contours of steep land, catching mist, sky, and sunlight. Their appearance changes with water and season, from silver surfaces to green growth and golden fields. But the terraces are not a design imposed on an empty mountain. They are part of a living system developed by the Hani people over roughly 13 centuries. Forest, water, village, and field are arranged vertically, each depending on the others. At the top are forests that capture and hold water. Below them, villages stand between the trees and the cultivated slopes. From there, channels guide water toward the terraces. The fields continue downward, step after step, using gravity to move what the community needs. To understand daily life here, follow the water. Morning mist gathers among the trees. Water descends through springs and small channels. Along the slope, those channels have to be watched, cleared, and repaired so the flow continues. The stream divides one branch, follows the mountain, while another enters a terrace, spreads across level ground, and passes onward. At field level, the scale becomes intimate. Channels meet low retaining edges. Wet soil must be shaped, rice plants tended, and damaged borders repaired. Water carries fragments of sky between the plants. The vast pattern seen from across the valley is really thousands of working surfaces, each requiring attention. The result is not only a harvest, it is continuity from forest to household. The mountain stores water. Channels distribute it. Fields produce rice. Villages remain close enough for people to move between home and farmland while staying below the forests that sustain the entire system. The World Heritage Landscape includes 82 villages between the mountaintop forests and the terraces. Traditional houses are known for tall thatched roofs that give them a mushroom-like form, although building materials and village architecture continue to change. The location of the settlements matters as much as their appearance. They occupy the middle of the system, where people can reach both water sources above and fields below. The terraces also support more than a single crop in isolation. Traditional farming has included buffalo and cattle, as well as ducks, fish, and eels within the wider agricultural system. These relationships make the fields productive in several ways and show how carefully the landscape has been observed over generations. No single family created this mountain. Its water cannot be managed by one person acting alone. Main canals and smaller branches cross between fields and valleys, and their maintenance has depended on cooperation. If an upstream channel fails, the effects travel downhill. If water is not distributed with care, the terraces reveal the imbalance quickly. This makes water a practical measure of community. It must arrive in the right place, in a useful amount, and at the right time. Rules, experience, and local knowledge become as important as walls or tools. The landscape may look natural from afar, but its stability is the result of repeated human decisions. There is also a cultural meaning to the forest beyond its physical role. The Hani landscape reflects long-standing respect for mountains, rivers, forests, and other natural forces. Protecting the upper slopes is therefore connected to both belief and survival. A forest kept alive above the village becomes water moving through the fields below. Modern life is present here as well. Roads shorten some journeys. Motorcycles, phones, new construction, and tourism can enter the same villages as traditional fieldwork. Young people may study or work elsewhere, while relatives continue to maintain land at home. The terraces are not protected from change by their beauty. The real challenge is not to keep every detail fixed. It is to preserve the relationships that allow the system to function. If forests are weakened, water changes. If channels are neglected, fields suffer. If village knowledge is not passed on, the landscape may remain visually impressive for a time while losing the practices that created it. This is why the famous viewpoint tells only part of the story. A camera can capture hundreds of terraces in a single frame, but it cannot easily show the hours spent guiding water, repairing an edge, planting, waiting, and returning. By the time the water reaches the lowest fields, it has passed through a landscape held together by forest cover, engineering, labor, and agreement. The view is extraordinary because the system is alive. Without that life, the curves would be only empty steps on a mountain. Far to the north in central Shanxi province, daily life unfolds inside a different kind of boundary. Pingyao is enclosed by walls, but it is not an empty historic enclosure. Streets, shops, temples, and courtyard houses form a city whose surviving plan reflects centuries of urban development. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, Pingyao became a major center of Chinese banking. The commercial buildings that remain are reminders that this was once a place where money, messages, goods, and trust moved across great distances. Today, almost 20,000 residents still live within the World Heritage Area. Behind the gates and shopfronts is not simply a preserved townscape, but a dense neighborhood with ordinary needs. The day begins under the shadow of the walls. A worker moves along a stone street. A bicycle passes through an intersection. Deliveries arrive before visitor traffic grows. Shop doors open beneath old signs. In a courtyard, the public city disappears behind a gate, replaced by a quieter arrangement of rooms facing inward. Nearly 4,000 traditional dwellings and shops survive within the historic urban fabric. Their value comes from more than age. Together, they preserve the relationship between commerce and domestic life, between the street and the courtyard, and between the city wall and the neighborhoods it contains. The courtyard house is especially important. From the street, a solid gate protects the interior. Once inside, rooms face a shared open space, bringing daylight and circulation into the home. Like the Tulou in Fujian, the design turns inward, but at a smaller scale. The result is not a fortified village under one roof. It is a family environment repeated across an urban grid. These houses also reveal the difficulty of living heritage. A building can be historically important and still needs safe wiring, reliable drainage, heating, sanitation, and weather protection. Residents cannot pause their lives while every repair becomes a conservation decision. At the same time, careless renovation can erase the materials and spatial relationships that make the house significant. This creates a challenge without a simple solution. If preservation focuses only on outward appearance, residents may be left with buildings that look authentic but are uncomfortable or expensive to maintain. If modernization ignores historic structure, the city can gradually lose what made it distinctive. The task is to improve daily life without turning every courtyard into a copy of a modern apartment or every street into a stage set. Tourism adds another layer. It supports shops, food businesses, accommodation crafts, and guided visits. It also concentrates attention on the most dramatic streets and can push commercial activity into spaces once used differently. The same doorway may be evaluated by a resident for convenience, by a conservation specialist for historical value, and by a visitor for atmosphere. Late in the day, these different Pingyaos overlap. Visitors move toward the main streets as the lights come on. Shopkeepers rearrange displays or begin to close. Small vehicles and bicycles pass through the remaining gaps. Food is carried into courtyards. A gate opens briefly, offering a glimpse of domestic space, then closes again. The public city grows brighter, while private life withdraws behind its walls. This sequence ends not with an empty street, but with a change of ownership over the same space. During the busiest hours, the old center belongs partly to commerce and visitors. Later, side lanes and courtyards return more clearly to residents. The city has not traveled backward in time. It has simply changed rhythm. Pingyao shows why the phrase "frozen in time" is misleading. Nothing inhabited is frozen. Roofs age, families change, businesses open and close. Infrastructure must be upgraded. A wall can survive for centuries, but the life inside it is renewed every day. The most successful preservation is therefore not the absence of change. It is change guided carefully enough that people can remain. A living city needs memory, but it also needs electricity, water safety work, and a reason for the next generation to use its streets. From the top of the wall, Pingyao appears ordered and complete. Courtyard roofs spread across the enclosed city in muted rows. At ground level, that order breaks into thousands of individual decisions: what to repair, what to sell, where to live, how to adapt, and which parts of the past must remain visible. The wall protects a historic form. The residents give that form a future. In the mountains of Guizhou, community can be heard before it is fully understood. Dong villages are known for timber houses, covered bridges, and drum towers that rise above the roofs as places of gathering. The buildings are striking, but one of the strongest connections between generations is carried without stone earth or written plans. It is carried by human voices. The grand song of the Dong ethnic group is a tradition of multi-part singing, performed without instrumental accompaniment and without a conductor. Different vocal lines enter and hold their place, creating a sound larger than any individual singer. The repertoire includes songs of greeting stories, children's songs, expressions of feeling, and pieces that imitate sounds from the natural world. In a drum tower or another shared space, a group gathers. Conversation lowers, breathing settles. There is no instrument to establish the atmosphere. One vocal layer begins, another joins, and the sound widens until the wooden interior seems to respond. A close view shows the work inside the music. Singers watch, listen, and adjust. A phrase depends on memory, but also on attention to everyone else in the group. No voice can create the full structure alone. The performance becomes an audible version of community's separate parts sustained through cooperation. Grand songs have traditionally been taught by experienced masters to groups of learners. Children, women, and men may participate in different choirs, allowing knowledge to move across ages. The songs preserve more than melody. They can carry history, social values, observations of nature, and ideas about how people should relate to elders, neighbors, and the wider community. This does not mean every resident sings in the same way, or that village life is organized entirely around performance. Dong communities are diverse, and daily routines also include farming, trade, education, craft tourism, and work far beyond the village. The grand song matters because it offers a shared language within that larger changing life. Architecture supports this exchange. The drum tower is not simply a tall decorative landmark. It is a communal venue for meetings, ceremonies, entertainment, and conversation. Covered bridges create places to cross water, but also places to pause. Timber houses place skilled construction within the everyday landscape. Other forms of knowledge remain visible in weaving and other textile work. Hands repeat patterns through sequences learned over time. As with singing, the finished object is only the surface. The deeper inheritance lies in knowing how to begin, how to correct a mistake, and how to recognize when the work is complete. Tourism can give these traditions a larger audience and provide income. It can also encourage culture to be presented on a schedule for visitors. A song shared within the community and a song performed on a stage may sound similar, but the circumstances are different. One grows from a social relationship. The other also serves an economy. The two do not have to cancel each other. Traditions have always adapted to new settings. The more important question is whether local people still shape the meaning, teaching, and use of what they perform. Cultural survival is strongest when knowledge remains valuable inside the community, not only attractive outside it. Long periods away for study or work can make transmission harder, leaving less time to learn a demanding song craft or building technique. Yet distance can also change the way people value what they inherited. Returning for a festival, joining a choir, helping repair a family home, or teaching a child can reconnect village knowledge to a life that now extends far beyond the mountains. Listen again as the vocal lines separate and return. The power of the grand song does not come from one voice dominating the others. It comes from the ability to remain distinct while forming something shared. That principle has echoed throughout this journey. In Fujian, separate households face one courtyard. In Anhui, individual homes connect to one water system. In Yunnan, many fields depend on the same flow from the forest. In Pingyao, private courtyards form a living city inside common walls. In Guizhou, different voices hold one song. The physical forms are different, but each place turns daily life into a relationship. A person is connected to a building, a neighbor, a channel, a street, a field, or a melody that cannot be sustained alone. These places are often described as hidden, ancient, or timeless. From a distance, those words seem appropriate. The mountains are misty. The walls are old. The rooftops create patterns that feel far removed from modern city life. But none of these places is hidden from the people who wake up there. For residents, a Tulou begins as a gate, a stairway, a kitchen, and the sound of the courtyard not as an aerial shape. Fenghuang is a route across the river and a lane that must remain usable in the morning long before it becomes a reflection at night. The Hani Terraces mean water to guide and fields to maintain. Pingyao means a home that needs repair and a street where work begins. In a Dong village, memory has to be practiced if it is to be heard again. What makes these settlements extraordinary is not that they escaped time. They did not. Their residents use modern tools, respond to tourism travel, for work, improve their homes, and make choices that earlier generations could not have imagined. Their achievement is more demanding. They continue to carry old relationships into new conditions. An earthen wall can be restored, but communal life cannot be rebuilt from materials alone. A water channel can be cleared, but its route matters only if people understand how the whole slope depends on it. A courtyard can be photographed, but it remains a home only when daily life is allowed to occupy it. A song can be recorded, but a recording cannot replace the act of learning how to sing with others. This is the difference between preserving an object and sustaining a place. A place stays alive through use, repair, memory, compromise, and sometimes disagreement. It survives because people decide that an old structure can still serve a present need, or that a traditional practice can still carry meaning in a modern life. Perhaps that is the most important view of unseen China, not a collection of wonders waiting to be discovered, but a network of lived environments already understood through routine. The courtyard empties. Water continues down the mountain. A shop door closes inside the city wall. Voices fade beneath a timber tower. Each image is quiet, but together they answer the question with which we began. How do people live inside places shaped over centuries? They live by adapting them, maintaining them, sharing them, and giving them new meaning one ordinary day at a time. Thank you for traveling with Best Hidden Places. Join us again as we continue into the places where everyday life tells the deepest story.